This how-to video guide does not constitute financial advice and is purely for educational purposes. Members of Subverto Trading Club may or may not have exposure to any of the crypto coins or NFTs mentioned. You should always do your own research before making financial decisions and follow the mantra of caveat emptor, buyer beware. Enjoy, guys.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another weekly market review. It's the 24th of April 2023. Bitcoin has done exactly what we anticipated it to, for our shorts to work out, looking for spaces to take profit on crypto and having a look at a lot of other macro things. Let's have a look. Let's look at the weekly, because I think last week was pretty important. First of all, got that rejection from the yearly pivot, guys. And this time I think we didn't even trade above it, so that's pretty interesting. This is a weekly engulfing, so what happens this week is going to be quite critical and quite key. As of now, I've taken off half of the shots that I accumulated up here, but there's a few things that I'm thinking of and looking at. So let's see. I mean, for now this is a solid rejection off of a very strongly expected level from where to get that rejection. You see, the last time though, guys, I mean, I'm just looking at it, there is no 100% to anything, right? But you see, the last time after we got a strong rejection, we still did come up and test that level once more. It actually took nearly 4 weeks last time. So is it going to be the same? I mean, I definitely don't think it's going to be exactly the same, but just don't count out the probabilities, guys, because we have a very important zone right here. Let me just mark it out. Right here. Okay, let me go to the weekly, because this turns into a breaker after this breakdown. All right, need to just measure out correctly the highs over here on this breaker. These are the highs, right? So for any genuine bullish case, what I'd say is, let me just switch the time frame first to have a look at the projections from last week. So we're pretty much on it, right? We've gotten that drop down, first initial drop down, and eventually I think this is the direction where we're heading, that we're heading lower. How we do that generally depends on essentially how we interact in this zone, this monthly open, daily level, weekly breaker, because all of this flips into resistance now. Okay, so in terms of what potentially can happen, what I'd be looking at is that if we do stabilize here, perhaps get something like this, and then we just slow it down, right? So for me, at the very moment, this would be something like the most favored scenario. I mean, this to me would be incredibly bullish, that I said that, we get multiple retests potentially. For that we have to break above the top of this breaker, this weekly breaker, which I think is now significant after this very sharp drop. Alright, but can we just grind here, build a bit of a complacency all of May, and then break down? I think it can definitely happen. We can't rule it out unless we break right down below. There is, to me, a genuine possibility for that. But if we break right below, then I'm good, allowing this to play out how it does have to, and how it does need to. Because to me, in terms of levels of interest, I'd say this point of control, along with the March monthly open, I mean, this is a level of interest, a genuine level of interest. And we're to see what happens to price and how it behaves once we're getting down here. But this is quite a clean false breakout to me, guys. You know, even if you look at this just as a structure, you know, you think about this as a structure, and it's like a clean false breakout right here. Alright, so it's a very clean false breakout across the board. So I would genuinely expect continuous downward pressure, and perhaps on the lower time frame you could look for a small bounce, but I mean, essentially the focus, as long as this weekly breaker right here, you can see in the blue, as long as this is holding, the focus must be on finding another good place to manage risk for that next leg down, because this genuinely looks like it has the potential to do that. Alright, so that's my take on the total market cap. For Bitcoin, what I'd say is, when you look at the total market cap chart, all BTC is moving along with BTC USD, so it's exactly the same, guys. And essentially we are building out that potential distribution, right? And that gets confirmed once we do start to break lower from here, right? This 26,500 zone, once this starts getting taken out, I'd say this distribution is confirmed, and we're really looking for those lower levels, definitely below the automatic rally, you know. And you want to look at where we have previous price history. I don't see anything before 21,500, right? So that would be the potential zone where price could get a reaction if this distribution does manifest. But outside of that, very, very similar to what I spoke about in the total market cap. Alright, if we just hide this for a second, look at it on the weekly, we have the same potential break over here. Alright, so this is also extremely close to the 2021 yearly open. So just mark out your charts, go to that, and if you want to just look at MarkTrader, because that's a very solid level. I'd say it's very close to here, 28,900 or so, right? So I would expect that if BTC has to come up, it could test that level to the underside and give another really good risk adjusted opportunity for further downside, to play further downside. And I mean, essentially then we could just have you know, perhaps June or July as where we could get that next big opportunity, guys. I'd say anything below this zone right here, anything below 22,500 would make for a really good long-term zone, you know, if you want to get back into Bitcoin, if you want to get Bitcoin, you know, for the long term. But if you, another thing I want you to look at, guys, I'm just gonna hide this again. Actually, I can't hide it like that. I'm just gonna hide it this way, right? Let me just put it in a folder, name it Wyckoff. Anyway, so I want to highlight some things over here in terms of where all the volume has come in. Alright, and if we looking at this entire zone as accumulation, what I would say is look at where the volume comes in, right here, right here, right here, right here. What I would say is all of this from 28k to 15k, this is going to become a new potential accumulation range for BTC. Alright, right here. All of this could literally do all of 2024. I mean all of 2023. You know, another few months of accumulation. So this is a big accumulation range, guys. But I think it's a genuine possibility. So when price does move up, we pull down an anchor VWAP, you know, and see where the average for this accumulation range has taken place. Let's say Coinbase is pretty accurate in terms of what happens. So 21,500 comes up again, guys. This is what I mentioned before. So I would say genuinely, if we do get that breakdown, this would be a great area of interest. Me personally, just look at this, how we're getting that support resistance flip over here. So 21,500 to me seems like a really genuine zone. Anything below this is an absolute bonus and a fantastic opportunity in the long run. So just remember that, just think about that. As of now, what we have done is what I showed you, in terms of the Wyckoff, it does seem to be manifesting. We have to see, how long this phase lasts. Are we going to get that quick drop, or if we hold, can we get that retest of that 2021 yearly open, which makes for another really good risk adjusted trade for potential downside all the way down to 21,500, below which is a golden opportunity for a long-term play on BTC. Looking at some more potential macro statistics, this comes from StratoGas. Chris Verone is a very good macro strategist, highly respected in the community. So just sharing some of his charts, and you look at first the market breadth, and look at where prices, and you see, compared to early Feb, it's just not showing the same strength, deep inside the market. And let's look at some relative strength, and in terms of what we had as leaders in that rally in Feb, and they're doing absolutely nothing this time. It's basically the mega caps in the market that have actually pulled the market to where they have, because outside of that, if you look at the Russell relative to the S&P 500 is actually breaking down. So again, I'd say that stocks are pointing to more potential downside over here, or at least getting a reaction from the current resistance that we are at, because across the board, everything that was doing well, I think transports very important. Again, you can see all of these are relative, right? Relative to utilities, doing absolutely nothing. Utilities are a defensive sector, and transport is just behaving the same way. So I think these are signs of caution. And in terms of I found this chart very interesting in terms of what happens when rates get cut, because everybody is very excited about that phase. Once rates are going to get cut, and it's going to be an extremely bullish time in the market. But if we look at, perhaps this is a bit selective, I would say, on their part, that they're just looking at two specific times when that happened. But this actually did happen, even if it was on two specific occasions. That once we did start getting the cuts is actually when the market started to drop, alright, which is very counterintuitive, which is very against what most of the market is thinking, but it does happen. Alright guys, so just keep this in mind, and allow yourself to not get carried away with the common narrative, because this is just me sharing that price is king, and this is just me sharing that don't get caught up in what the crowd is thinking, because there's so many different ways. The market is so creative that it really genuinely just wants to catch you off guard, and there's many ways it can do that. So just don't get caught up with the crowd. Alright, and the next thing is about the recession, and when and whether it can happen. And I mean, it just shows that there is genuine potential for it to do that. And the thing is, when you look at such high time frames, somebody's thinking, the recession starts now, or it starts very quickly or sooner. A lot of times it can take 2 to 3, 4 years even, for recession to genuinely set in. It has happened before over the last 100, 150 years, So just again keep that in mind when looking at the macro picture, guys, because a lot of people make macro commentary and genuinely don't give you a perspective on time and time frames, and especially crypto folk. I think just historically the things that we have seen over the market, the last 10 years is literally nothing, guys. Okay, in terms of the bigger picture. That is why again you see me going to the 1950s and 60s and 60, 70 years ago as well, and looking for analogs and narratives of where things might have been and why things are similar to those periods in time. But here what we see is something really different, and something that the market genuinely hasn't seen. Now you can see it's been 6 months off of the major market bottom, right? And look at the strength in gold right here. So this is extremely rare, especially when the banks are getting completely smashed. So it's a very different fundamental situation at the moment, guys, which we have not seen over the last 50 years. Alright, so what I told you before just holds. With all of this macro analysis, it just shows that one needs to be really nimble. Alright, and you absolutely can't do what you were doing over the last 10 years to make money in this market. Alright, so this is my suggestion, that just stay on your toes and watch what is happening. Gold to me genuinely is still interesting. I think many people are underweight gold at the moment, and something very interesting to do with gold could happen, and I am looking to find some exposure there if we don't get a retrace. So for now I'm just watching gold very closely, but pretty important, guys. Everything all across is just showing such a unique moment in the markets that I don't think genuinely any one person can say with confidence what exactly is going to happen. But what the evidence we have before us is, yes, market bet is weak. It is nothing like we've seen before. The moment that we have is nothing like we've seen before, and it's genuinely a time to be cautious. And like before, if crypto is leading, then could be that the rest of the market could follow on its way down. Because gold has been so interesting, we can't help but have another look at it. And last week we did get a bit of a move down, looking for potential structure now. So I'd highlighted two potential zones, getting very close to the orange zone, the aggressive retrace zone. And what I'd say is also keep half an eye on the dollar, and let's see whether this is where we start to get a reaction. Because what I would like to see then on the lower time frame, now we have a bit of a resistance here, guys, on the daily, and I'd say for me, good confidence now for gold to get further upside could literally mean if we get something like this. Love to add something on a position, get a smaller position if we get something like this, and then add. But if we don't get this and we come here and start to reject, I'd be a bit cautious, alright, with gold, because you can see a bit of a Quasimodo. His highs, a short squeeze, and then we're getting a bit of a rejection from here. So this becomes an extremely important zone to me, after the move that we got on Friday. What I would want is genuinely for this zone to flip into support. Alright, so if we get this, yes, then I'm good, all good for supporting gold, to do what it needs to right here. But watch out, if we start to flip this into resistance again, because this could just mean that gold is making some kind of a cyclical major resistance over here. And then I'd again have alert set down here, looking at the next zone of interest in terms of historical support along with a technical level. So sub 1900 if this does not work out on gold. So watching this very closely, guys.